I will be showing you how you can install this fantastic SDDM theme over here, complete with the live wallpaper and everything, without having to write the QML part of it yourself. So without further ado, let's just start. So first things first, you want to open your browser and go to this URL. So it's github.com, sane1090x, Vitreous. So it's basically my GitHub repo where I've created this theme over here. It's a material design inspired theme for SDDM. Okay, it has all the stuff that you'd need in order to actually install this as a theme, as you can see with the README. It's fully furnished, right? So I'll walk you through this README and how to install it so that you can get it for yourself. As you can see, this is what we're going to be installing today, as I showed you earlier as well. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is install the fonts. Fonts required are Google Sans Text, London Between, and PP New Machina. Now, if I just cd into the downloads folder, okay, and by the way, if you want to actually install these fonts, just middle click or just click on them and then install all the fonts. So as you can see, I've already saved a bunch of the fonts here. Okay, same thing for these two fonts. Just click on these links, install the fonts, like get the zip files and put them in a place where you can access them easily. This is where I have the files, right? So here I have Google Sans Text Regular. I'll just show you how you can install these fonts. If I type in ls, we see that there's a TTF file. Now, what you want to do is create a folder in user local share fonts TTF, okay? You want to create two folders, so you can use this syntax, which allows you to create two folders at the same time. Okay, so mkdir allows you to use this curly brace syntax with the directory name separated by a comma, which means that you can create multiple directories at the same time. Okay, so you want these two directories. So what we're going to do is basically get fonts, whether they're TTF or OTF, and then put them inside user local share fonts and then the respective font directory. So this one, pretty simple, right? We're just going to type in sudo cp and then copy it over to this URL. Okay, you also want to create this Google Sans Text, subfolder inside of TTF. Okay, you want to do that for the other fonts as well. So if you're on Arch Linux, the directory to install fonts would specifically be user local share fonts. However, if you're on another distro, it might differ a little bit, but it doesn't matter. As long as you can create this directory, it doesn't matter where, it'll work, okay? So don't worry about that. Even if you're on Fedora or Pop! OS or something like that, okay, you don't have to worry about it at all. So what you want to do right now is just copy this. For first of all, create the directory, user local share fonts, TTF. You want to create Google Sans Text, and then the other fonts as well, London. So you want to create London Between as well. So you might as well just call it London. And then you want to do the same thing for PP New Machina. So we'll just make the directories right now. mkdir local share fonts, come on, fonts OTF, okay? Now here I've already created a directory called PP New Machina. So you just want to make that directory and then put the fonts in there, simple. So sudo cp, again, you want to take this command and you want to paste it inside. Then you want to find the other font files as well and do the same for those. So here, there's a little trick that you can do. For the London font over here, as you can see, it wasn't actually enclosed in a folder. So what we're going to do is sudo cp everything ending in .ttf and then copy that over to this directory. So we just copy and then paste. That's Control-Shift-C and Control-Shift-V, regardless of what terminal you're on, unless you've customized it to be anything different, of course. Okay, so what you're doing here is you're basically asking the shell to find any file which ends with .ttf, and then you're asking it to move it to /user, actually. User local share fonts TTF, and then the font name itself, which is London. Same thing you want to do for New Machina as well. So if you go to New Machina, we have OTF font files. So you want to do the same, cp everything ending in .otf, and then you just pick the font folder. Once you do that, your fonts should be installed. If you want to reload the fonts, you just have to type in fc-r, and that should reload the font directory. Okay, and then if you just open nwg look, and then you look for the font, you can just type in, let's say, Google Sans Text. As you can see, you see that it works over here. You can also type in London. You should be able to see the font. London Between is what we're going to be using. And same thing for New Machina. Okay, so New Machina, this is what we see. Awesome. So if you see that, congratulations, you have successfully installed the fonts. That's the first part of it done. We have a couple more left to go. Okay, now this is just the commands, you might want to just take a look at this. Okay, next thing is we're going to be configuring a systemd service and a timer for weather. So this weather part over here, we're going to actually be writing the weather to a file, and then we're going to be reading that file from, using QML magic in order to display that over here. The way we do that is with, QML magic, as I just mentioned earlier. I'm going to show you what that is, but first we have to configure this stuff. So in systemd, basically, I'll just give you a quick rundown of what it is. In systemd, everything is a unit. So you might have heard of systemd services, systemd services, and then timers, targets, and sockets and whatnot. Everything that you can interact with in systemd that can be enabled, disabled, started, stopped, whatever, is called a unit. So the units that we're going to be dealing with for our, convenience sake and purposes in this case are going to be service and timer, right? So a service basically tells systemd how to run a program. A timer tells systemd how to, or rather when to run that program. Okay, so the program we're going to be running is our own custom program, which is called update SDDM weather. And this program, okay, relies on etc sddm weather.conf. So we're creating a weather config file, which has latitude and longitude coordinates along with our unit. So for the weather, we're going to be using a website called openmeteo.com. So we're just using that API in order to get the weather for our current location. If you want to get your latitude and your longitude coordinates, you just have to go into, your favorite search engine, just type in what is my lat lon, and then it should show you your coordinates. So you take that, it's going to be, let's say 73.8264 for the latitude, and then the longitude is something like 55.2356, and then you just put that in over here. Okay, you can shorten it down to just 4 decimal places. That should be enough. You don't have to deal with anything more than that. Okay, 2 integer places, like you have 2 integers, 2 digits on the integer part, and then you have 4 digits on the decimal part. That should be enough for the coordinates. Okay, so if I just, okay, hold on. Basically, that's a file, right? Now, next file you want to create is user local bin update SDDM weather. So that is going to look a little something like this. So if I open it with NeoVim, okay, just open it like so, and this is what you see. Now, it might look a little bit complicated, but you honestly don't have to worry about any of this. I've already written it for you, so you can just copy and paste this into a script. I'll just go over this really quickly and explain to you what it does, right? So set-euo pipe fail. Now, this is to basically make sure that we're making the shell much stricter on the script. So E means exit on any error. U means it actually has another meaning. You can just go look that up what it is. And then O, pipe fail, means, let's say you have a command like this. So let's find that. Actually, so this one. Okay, so here we have a pipe going on, right? This is a pipeline. So if any part of the pipeline fails, the entire pipeline fails. Like the entire command pipeline, the entirety of it fails. So we're just setting this in order to make sure that if any errors occur, okay, the greeter doesn't freak out and then prevent us from letting us logging in. So that would be problematic, which is why we're asking the shell to be much stricter on our script. And this is the configuration file. You can change the directory, or you can change where exactly the config file is if you wanted to. Okay, now this is just sourcing the config file. So if the file actually exists, then what we're going to do is make it accessible to the script. Now this is just, okay, this is actually a no-op command in bash. Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering where exactly you can learn to write shell scripts like this, I teach you exactly how to do this in detail in HyperAccelerator, which is the program, which is the first link in the description. I also show you how to make shell scripts like these, which tie into making custom theme switches like this one. As you can see over here, I wrote a shell script like the one that you just saw previously to make awesome theme switches like this one. If you want to know how to make custom theme switches like this one, along with a bunch more goodies like this waybar config, this Overwatch panel, this logout menu, and a hell of a lot more, go ahead and click the first link in the description. I show you exactly how to do this step by step so that you're not lost in any part of the journey whatsoever, right? So go ahead, check it out. I also show you how to write shell scripts like these, by the way, which they tend to be really useful, as you can see. Okay, but basically, this colon thing is a no-op command. So let's say you had an if-else clause in bash, but then you wanted to execute something. Or let's say, okay, so you can think of it this way, right? It kind of works like pass. So if you have ever written Python before, Okay, you'll know that pass is a command in Python. It's a keyword in Python, which basically says do nothing. It means do nothing. So this colon is a no-op command in Bash, which is analogous to pass in Python. That's it. Okay, so what this is doing is if latitude is missing, it's just going to print lat missing in conf, and then it's going to exit. Same thing for long. And now here, which is basically defaulting the unit to degrees Celsius if it's missing in the config file. Okay, now if the unit is Fahrenheit, we just say Fahrenheit, otherwise it's Celsius. Pretty simple. This is just regex for pattern matching and stuff, as in it doesn't matter whether the user types in an uppercase letter or a lowercase letter, it's going to be, Fahrenheit. Okay, now this URL is going to be the URL from which we actually fetch the weather. So we're using openmeteor.com for this. This weather, website is actually pretty good because we don't require an API key. We can just use this kind of URL, pass in the latitude and longitude coordinates, like so. And then we can get a bunch more stuff. Like we can get the current temperature, we can get the weather code, we can get whether it's day or not, and we can also get the temperature unit, as we have already figured out from this part. Okay, now JSON. Now what we're doing is actually getting this data in JSON, and then, okay, let's see what happens. So we're using curl to get the JSON data, right? Now if that fails, then the JSON data is just going to be empty. Now if this is empty, of course, or if it fails, if something bad happens, basically, we're just going to echo an empty line or an empty string into run SDDM weather.txt. If you haven't seen that file, that's just going to look like this, SDDM weather.txt. This is the exact thing that's going to be printed in over here, right? So that's that. Okay, now what are we doing here? We're just extracting the values from the JSON. Okay, this JSON variable is just going to contain all of the JSON. So what we're doing, getting the temperature using JQ for this, getting the weather code, again using JQ, and we're getting whether it's day or not as well. Then we're rounding the temperature, just in case it's not in an integer, we're just rounding it. And then here, emoji for, this is a function which is getting the weather code and then mapping it to a corresponding emoji. Pretty simple stuff. Then this is the actual emoji where we're using the above function, using the weather code and using whether it's day or not in order to actually get the emoji that we're supposed to be printing. And then we're composing the line itself. It has the emoji in the first part, leaving a space, the integer temperature along with the suffix. If this temperature integer part fails, then we're just going to get the emoji and it'll serve as at least having a slight bit of an indication as to the weather, if not the complete picture. Okay, then in write for greeter, what we're doing is just getting the output file, printing the stuff, making the output file world readable. Chmod 0644 is making this output file, so this file world readable. And then what we're doing is just changing the owner of out file to SDDM. And if there are any errors, we just suppress any errors. And if this command fails, then we just pretend as if nothing happened and then we move on. That's what this 2 bars and true does. Okay, the 2 bars you can basically consider as if this previous command fails, execute this command. So if this previous command fails, pretend as if nothing ever happened and move on, which is what adding true to the end of this command does. Great, now we have this script configured. Next thing we need to do is create a systemd service. So you've probably already come in contact with systemd services before. If you've ever played around with Bluetooth, you'll know that to start Bluetooth, you have to use sudo systemctl start Bluetooth, or even the same thing could be for, let's say, what's another service we could actually use? It could be libvirt, okay? libvirtd is another service. So libvirtd, if you're playing around with virtual managers and KVM and whatnot, you're going to have to start the libvirtd service in order to actually play around with that. Okay, and basically this is another service, but just a custom one that we're creating. We also created a service for dynamic wallpapers. If you have watched that video, basically I create another service which allows us to change the wallpaper every 15 minutes. Okay, we do that with the help of services and timers as well, right? Now here we just create, now I can show you the file, but it's basically the exact same thing. Here unit, this is a human readable description as to what this service is actually doing. Now type is one shot. So you basically just execute this service and then just forget about it. Pretty self-explanatory, right? And maybe whatever, right? Then exec start is just what program to run. What program to run is going to be this thing. Oh, and don't forget to chmod plus x this thing, by the way. You want to make this script executable. So I want to just type in chmod plus x user local bin update SDDM weather. So you want to do that. Don't forget about that, otherwise the script is just not going to work, right? Then what you want to do is create a systemd timer, which basically dictates how, or rather when, this program is going to run, when this service is going to be run, which actually in turn dictates how or what program is being run. So here, again, same description as a service on bootsec, 20 seconds. So after the computer has finished booting, 20 seconds after that, we're going to launch this timer, okay, on unit active sec. So this is 10 minutes. This dictates the interval for which we're going to be dealing with. So every 10 minutes, it's going to update the weather. Accuracy second, so that's 30 seconds. You can just let that be. Persistent is true. So even on reboots, it's going to maintain the running of this timer. Okay, next thing we have is install wanted by timers.target. Now, you don't have to worry about this too much. This is just some syntax stuff that you have to mention for the timer to work. Okay. Then next thing we're doing is just enabling and starting the timer with sudo systemctl daemon reload. So this reloads all unit files. This is basically telling systemd, hey, look at all these files. They have changed. Some files are new. Go ahead, look at all the files that are new and just update your idea of what all the different unit files are. Okay, that's what this command is doing. Now you're not actually reloading anything because all you're doing is just telling systemd that there are new files available. Okay, in our case. Next thing you're doing is just enabling the SDDM weather.timer, and we're enabling it now, which means we're also going to start it up. Okay, and that should conclude this part, configuring systemd service. Next thing we need to do is just add the necessary environment variables. So you open etc sddm.conf and then you add these lines. Okay, so if I show you this part, you might actually want to see this. etc sddm.conf. Okay, you want to type in this part. Okay, so greeter environment, you're just adding in this environment variable, qml xhr allow file read 1. Now we're adding in this environment variable because I'm using xhr in order to read this file. It's just some QML stuff. You don't have to worry about it too much. Just know that you have to add this environment variable. Otherwise, SDDM will not be able to read the file that we created, run sddm It's not going to be able to read that, which is why you have to add this part in. Okay, next we just complete the installation by running git clone on this repo, copying this Vitreous theme to your home directory or wherever else, and then just moving it to user share SDDM themes. Okay, then you want to edit etc sddm.conf, and then you want to add this thing. Okay, you just want to say theme, current theme is just Vitreous. There are a couple of other settings that you can mess around with in etc sddm.conf. If you want it, you can just go and check that out. But otherwise, that should be it. Now let me show you what the configuration part of this entails. So if I cd user share SDDM themes Vitreous, here we are. Okay, now in backgrounds, we actually have the background itself, which is going to be Nightfox, the current theme over here. And of course, the nature of using a custom theme switcher is, of course, I can switch the theme whenever I want, right? All I have to do is just find a different animated background. Of course, I can ask AI to animate the background for me. Okay, and that would be the most fun thing ever, like especially for Rose Pine. Think about how beautiful this could look if animated. Like all the colors are just shifting around, and then that could just be perpetually running in the background of your login manager, of your display manager. Oh, that'd be amazing. Same thing for this forest. Okay, you might even want to ask AI to create like a wolf or something that's walking down these stairs. Like it disappears somewhere and then it reappears to like this. There are endless possibilities that you can do with this, which is exactly what I teach you to do in Hyperaccelerator. You're not going to find advice like this, such as add a wolf over here that's walking down the stairs and then make it reappear over here in any other YouTube video. You're only going to find it over here. And not just that, but I show you how to do it step by step in Hyperaccelerator. So go ahead, click the first link in the description and check it out. Okay, now, again, so where was I? Nightfox.mp4, right? That's basically the animated background. That's the animated part of it. Then in components, so let me just tree it so you can see it, right? In components, we have these components over here. And then in configs, we have vitreous.conf, which is basically the current config file. Then in the icons, we have all the icons that are required for this. Then main.qml, which is the main QML file. Metadata.desktop, which is going to show a bunch of the, okay, let me just show you. It's better to just show you. Yeah, I'll just cd vitreous metadata.desktop. Okay, this is what you see over here. It just dictates what the theme is and then a bunch more attributes about that. Okay, Then in preview, we just have the preview if you're actually using this on KDE Plasma. Now, the fun part comes to actually configuring it. Now, there are two places where you can configure it, right? This theme specifically, you can configure in either vitreous.conf, or if you really want to, get down into the weeds with this thing, you can go into each of the individual components and then mess around with it over there. So let's say, for example, you wanted to change this clock font over here. You wanted to change this font to something like Rubik instead of New Machina. Well, you would have to open components clock.qml, okay, and then you would have to go over to time label, find font.family in this case. Okay, it actually needs to be indented, but whatever. Okay, you need to find font.family and then just remove this part, add in whichever font you want, and that's it. This is the weather part that I mentioned that is using XML HTTP request in order to just get this file. And then whenever the file is ready, you're just going to get the data that is in that file and then send it to whichever, piece of, the program that's asking for the data. Okay, now component.onCompleted, you just fetch the weather and then you display the weather over there. All that's fun stuff. Okay, great. That's for the clock. Then for the input, you can customize the forms, the border radius of these buttons, and then the icon size. You can customize pretty much anything because this is literally like another QML app, but just written to be a display manager. And funnily enough, if you actually get to grips with QML by configuring SDDM first, learning Quickshell is going to be much, much simpler. Oh, and in case I didn't mention it earlier, Quickshell is also going to be part of HyperAccelerator not too long in the future. And when that is the case, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be increasing the price even further because learning Quickshell is not as simple as configuring Waybar, you see. I'm going to have to teach you how to program. I'm going to have to teach you how to code. And when I teach you something, you can rest assured that you get the entirety of it, right? Everything up from the fundamentals to the very top level stuff, you get to know everything. So if you want to basically get permanent access to HyperAccelerator, right, getting to learn Quickshell for a lesser price than it's eventually going to be in the future, you might as well just click the first link in the description and check it out right now, right? Anyway, that is it for configuring, I think. Okay, that should be it pretty much, actually. That's it. Of course, we have one last thing, which is this config file as well in vitreous.conf. We have this config file. So this is the screen width and the screen height. We have a bunch of comments here that are actually describing what each of these settings is doing, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, so this is the form itself. If you want, you can take the blur, stretch it out to the entire thing. You can also move this form to the center. Okay, you can do a lot of cool stuff with it, so you can just check that out, as you can see over here. And virtual keyboard was actually a setting previously, but there is no virtual keyboard in this one. If you do want it, it shouldn't be too much work to add it. But anyway, most people are not going to use this virtual keyboard. If you are one of them, I'm pretty sure you can figure out how to do it. You're smart enough, right? Anyway, that should be it. If you want to know how to make a blazing fast and beautiful config like this one, complete with a custom theme switcher, along with this Weber config, this app launcher, and whatever else that I showed you, along with getting lifetime access to Quickshell and learning Quickshell at a lesser price than you would in the future, then go ahead and click the first link in the description. I show you exactly how to make setups like these, of course, and whatever else that I just mentioned. If you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it and want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Stay rising.